Not getting vaccinated is actually self-entitled and indulgent in the extreme in the middle of a pandemic. Go and get vaccinated and be fair to the rest of your community.
My message very strongly during September will be to everybody, get ready. If you're a business, make sure your employees are vaccinated. If you're a citizen, make sure yourself and your family and loved ones are vaccinated, and your friends, because that is our ticket to freedom. Vaccination is key for us moving forward in terms of getting back to normal.
And normal under COVID will still mean you have QR codes, still mean you need to check in, still mean you have to maintain social distancing, wear a mask in certain settings.
But we will be much freer than what we are today, absolutely. And it's really important to know that when we open up, those that are unvaccinated won't be allowed to do other things because they will be exposed. That is why at 70% double dose, the freedoms will extend to people that are fully vaccinated. We cannot afford to have the unvaccinated exposed to venues, and we can't afford to have the unvaccinated susceptible to disease, to get disease. And that's why we're urging everybody, giving people plenty of notice to say, if you want to participate in the freedoms that come with 70%, that come with 80%, please get vaccinated.
There are protests popping up all over Australia. We see them outside Parliament, they're in Byron Bay, they're outside councils, they're outside police stations. Are you worried that you're losing the messaging? Are you losing the people on this?
You will always have a certain group who unfortunately are spending more time on social media and listening to people with crackpot ideas than you will have perhaps reading the scientific journals and talking to the doctors. My strong advice would be to talk to your doctor about what you should be doing to try and stop this virus. I mean, when you think about it, in a few months' time, when we've got a very high level of the community, possibly 80% that'll be double vaccinated, there'll be a relatively small percentage of people who will have no vaccinations, and yet they'll still expect to come into our public health system, paid for by the taxpayers of New South Wales, and putting staff like Michelle at risk. You've got to ask about whether that's really a fair way of thinking, a just way of thinking. Why should people have that luxury not to be vaccinated and then expect to put our frontline health staff at risk by coming in and getting looked after in our public hospitals and expecting taxpayers to pick up the charge? I think it's time that people just got real about that. Sorry. I think that it's fair to say the police have taken a very tough stance, and so has the New South Wales government, on those that we can take that tough stance on. And there are many. Many have received very substantial fines, and I just reiterate that fines are up to $5,000. You can end up $5,000 poorer by not complying with the health orders, and you may end up going to court and doing 6 months in prison and or having an $11,000 fine.
We're also then having police who are doing welfare checks. And so we provide a list every day of the cases, and police do visits for them, and they actually hand them a letter and some additional information. We've also got translated materials that can be handed there, again as a stopgap, because we know isolating the case, isolating the person with COVID and their family, because their family is likely to have already been infected at that point in time, is critical. We then follow up with a more detailed interview which elicits other high-risk settings, and as I said, we're triaging and prioritising.
But it's transitioning, and the Doe report talks about this, it's transitioning from an unvaccinated population to a vaccinated population.
And what living with COVID looks like.
And normal under COVID will still mean you have QR codes, still mean you need to check in, still mean you have to maintain social distancing, wear a mask in certain settings.